Welcome, everyone. Right now, I don't see most of you. So if you have anything that you would like to ask or you have a question, put it in the chat. We have a few people that are monitoring the chat and that can basically push the question to us or bring our attention and so forth. So the webinar today is going to be about SAP's new implementation methodology called Fit2Standard. And of course, we need to compare this a bit with a fit gap, what was the old way of doing things. And of course, you can guess fit gap has been around the block, has proven himself and so forth. So very valuable. People like it. It has proven its worth and so forth. And Fit2Standard is new. And it's something that we need to see if it has benefits and how we want to go about unlocking those. So that's a bit the idea on what we're going to be discussing today. We don't typically go into standard SAP slides and so forth because there are many places where you can get those. What we try to do is actually make things very practical, very pragmatic. And from there, we spin up a story and have a bit of a discussion to answer some questions because we can talk for hours. But again, this is intended to be relatively short. So who are we? In essence, so I'm Christoph. Most of you have seen me sooner or later in our daily dealings. I've been around for quite a while, set up Delaware in Southeast Asia between 2011 and 2023, left them last year and joined Icon, where now I'm working on building the Icon services arm. And together with me today, I have Graham. Graham, could you pop up and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm here. So, hey everyone. So, Graham Storm, similar to Christoph, been around the SAP for a long time. Have worked with a lot of the large major partners as well as SAP a number of times, and really focused on delivery and architecting solutions for clients. As Christoph said, have joined Icon to run the SAP services and really build that up and provide, just value and leadership and guidance for our customers in what's an ever-changing environment.
So between the two of us, we have more than 50 years of experience in IT projects, SAP and so forth. So we've been around the block. But Icon is relatively new, and what we do in Icon is new from this year. So Icon historically has provided technology competence for projects. In the last 6 years, Harjit, who is also in the call, has built this up pretty much single-handedly to a very successful organization with more than 23 million turnover. So we joined him this year to help bring and build SAP service delivery out of an offshore service delivery center in Vietnam, which we're currently building up. So we have foot on the ground. We have about 15 people there, and we focus on SAP managed services, SAP DevOps around the BTP platform, and we do some customer communications management, output management there as well. And then a last dimension of what we do in Icon is basically a technology platform for staffing, which we help to create a better match between our own capabilities, the people that we have in our network, and the project requirements that we need to staff. So that's a bit Icon in a nutshell. Now, to start today, I'm first going to get started with the questions. Each time we try to do a short questionnaire. So Fitri, could you please put up the survey? So today the survey is focused, of course, on fit gap versus Fit2Standard. And interesting there is to understand how many ERP implementations either of you have actually been involved in, because some of them will have been fit gap. Maybe some of you already have done Fit2Standard, I don't know. And then the second one is more around aligning business with ERP best practices. So this is kind of the world upside down in a way, where we say you are convinced that aligning the business process with the ERP best practices, because of course SAP knows by experience and by the reach in the market what commonly is done for certain projects. So does this benefit business operations, benefit companies financially? will help users let lives get better or simpler, or the contrary, it will make lives of users more miserable, or it's just a marketing gimmick. The whole idea is not that important. So if you could do me a favor and answer to these questions, then we can put them on screen and see kind of where everyone is with these topics. And Graham, do you?
Yeah.
Because I don't see who all is in the call because I'm presenting and I have only one person right now. I don't see any answers at the moment. Does everyone else see the? Does everyone else see
I
the?
already submitted it. I don't know.
Yeah, I submitted as well, Christoph, already a few minutes ago.
Yeah, that's very strange because I don't see any updates. Maybe some technical problem with Zoom. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't seen any. I'm still just got the slide, just with the nice pink question mark.
Yeah, I've got the answers. So do you want me to read them out to you, Christoph?
It has just refreshed. I don't know. So maybe it was my network connection, but I see that things evolving now.
Brilliant.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah, I'm still not seeing it, but that's okay.
Yeah, I guess there must be some hiccups with Zoom then. I mean, of course, we're a bit further away. I'm in Indonesia right now. Graham is in Melbourne, so maybe.
Yeah, I'm in Melbourne. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, who knows? Okay, so we have a very senior audience here, probably many of which are involved in actual ERP implementations, because if you look at the number of end-to-end ERP implementations, there is many people who have more than 10 end-to-end ERP implementations behind them. So we have a mature and experienced crowd, so it should make for an interesting conversation.
Yeah, when you look at 75%, you know, between 5 and plus 10, that's a very, very experienced group.
And then I'm convinced aligning business with ERP best practices. I think many people quite aligned with the SAP vision on this.
Yep.
Where would you put your money, Graham, when you need to answer this?
Look, having a business and a finance background, I'm trying to always benefit the business operations and help people's lives get simpler and better. You know, obviously you always think of financials, but that can be measured in many different ways. I think, making users lives better and simpler by default benefits the business operations and benefits the organizations financially anyway.
I do believe that when we force this in the wrong way, we do make people's life more difficult and sometimes miserable. So that's actually what we want to discuss today. And we want to go on and look at how can we do this right, make people's lives better by actually following the high-level strategy which SAP puts forward. So I'll stop sharing the poll. Oh, and now I can share the results. That's weird. This system is not working. Did people see the outcome of the poll?
Yeah, I can now. I couldn't before.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Okay. So you will see, I mean, we just kind of talked that through. Many people with a lot of experience in ERP implementations, and then the majority following, let's say, the standard thinking and logic that this is beneficial, but also some people who say we can sometimes drop the ball and make people's lives more difficult. All right, then I'll close that poll, and we actually look at the start of all things, which is the new SAP Cloud Activate methodology. And Graham, this is your area, so take it away.
Yeah, so this slide's probably not new to the audience, but it's obviously the methodology that's followed from an Activate methodology, a cloud-enabled solution stack. If it looks similar to even the old Accelerate methodology, but the whole concept is really following a different process. It's very much business driven. If you look at the 4 pillars of prepare, explore, realize, deploy, that hasn't changed. What has changed is the mindset and the way we're approaching delivery of cloud solutions. So what in history was a very, very long explore phase, very long realize phase, because you were doing fit gap, you were effectively designing from a blank sheet of paper. The whole concept of that has changed, and it's really now starting with a standard solution, starting with a minimum viable product, and then presenting that to the users and to the key stakeholders of our clients up front, and then effectively asking them, why doesn't that work for you? Rather than saying, what do you want? It's really giving them something to then validate and say, why doesn't that work for you? And that's the key around the explore phase. We're not trying to design something from scratch. We're trying to work out what are the key gaps between what we're positioning as the standard set of business processes versus what the business actually needs to run their operations and make their life simpler, like the poll said. So that's really the key areas. And what you'll notice here is that the configuration, and the realize phase, it's an iterative process. It's not a conceptual explore and then a build phase, and then the users suddenly see the solution only when it gets to UAT. This is very much an iterative process, because you've already got something that you're starting with being your cloud-enabled cloud solution, and the business and the users see that through the whole process of explore, of realize, and of deploy. So there's no secrets and no surprises when you get to the end result of going live with the system.
So core to this cloud activate methodology would then be your Fit2Standard, isn't it, Graham?
Yep, absolutely. So the whole concept of how this is successful for customers is following that Fit2Standard, and not going back to the old mindset of fit gap that effectively they start with their as is processes and try to mold that into a new SAP solution. You're starting with that Fit2Standard solution already available as part of your design, and you're just trying to identify gaps.
So that brings us to the statement Fit2Standard. Now, I've been in 7 S/4HANA public cloud deployments in the last 5-6 years, and we see Fit2Standard is a great thing from a managerial perspective. Everyone loves the idea. I will adopt standards. I make life easier. I will simplify the organization, and I'm going to save money and be more productive while doing that. So Fit2Standard actually has this hidden promise where, from a managerial perspective, it looks amazing. From an end user perspective, the moment that we start talking about Fit2Standard, and if you don't approach it right, we very often see that the business very quickly is not as excited by aligning with standards, because they feel that whatever they could do in the past, and whenever they developed a system or gave their requirements in the past, they were more able to achieve their preferred outcomes than with a Fit2Standard process. Because fit gap always had it all. I mean, in a fit gap situation, you just tell what you want, and if you're willing to pay, it can be built.
You get it, yeah.
And that idea in a Fit2Standard, it sounds too restrictive. It doesn't necessarily is, but it sounds too restrictive. So the way that you need to sell it needs to be different. And of course, we don't want to make people unhappy. We don't want to take their lollipop away. We want people who work with us when we do our project. And of course, we always want to achieve a clean core, because a clean core is what provides us the future proofing of our platform. And if you look at the 2 design methodologies on the left-hand side in an old style fit gap approach, or on the right side with the Fit2Standard, you can see there are still customizations there. So from that perspective, it means that in both sides of both approaches, we should be able to achieve a similar outcome, but it sounds different. So our purpose is still to do things right and to do things to achieve this clean core platform because of long-term sustainability. Now, the question then is, based on the experience that I had in these recent deployments and my older deployments 15, 20 years ago, how do we solve this? So how do we make sure that the statement Fit2Standard doesn't push away users and doesn't create aversion to the implementation process and difficulties in adoption? So from that perspective, Graham, in terms of Fit2Standard.
Yep. Thanks, mate. Yeah, and similar to yours, having been involved in both, you know, cloud solutions and from a public cloud perspective, as well as many ECC and S4 private cloud solutions, where, you know, the goals and the what you want to achieve is endless. The big difference that we're seeing with the Fit2Standard methodology is it is agile. Like it's not 100% agile. You still have a method to follow, but it's not absolutely waterfall either, like the old accelerate methodology for a massive transformation project where you're trying to do everything in one go. The big difference with the Fit2Standard methodology is you are starting with a minimum viable product. You already have a standard set of processes that you can show, you know, your customer and show your key users. You can use the accelerators that are available, whether it be from a deployment or a migration perspective, or whether it be showing, you know, as part of your explore. Instead of it being conceptual, it becomes real. And that's a big difference that I'm seeing, that the users start to get on board. They may have some reservations, as Christoph talked about, because the fit to gap mindset is we can get what we want. We'll just follow the old, we do it this way now. We're going to get that with an SAP logo moving forward. But that being said, the outcome will still be the same, but it's just starting in a totally different way. You're providing a minimum viable product, so they're seeing it up front. You're then, through the realize phase, you're then working with, you know, the business and the users to make sure that those gaps that you identified as part of your explore are being resolved. It's not waiting till the very end when you get a whole lot of defects out of UAT. So it's actually showing the business that, yes, they're being listened to, and they are getting, you know, the business processes that they were expecting up front.
But this takes a bit of a difference in approach.
It does.
And this is where it becomes very important. So many ERP consultants, as well as end users, typically have the same older mindset on, we need to discuss everything up front and it all needs to be detailed and so forth. And I will not get what I really want if I don't say it now. And that's why the approach actually needs to change from an implementation perspective. So we need to paint a different picture. What Graham just mentioned, the MVP, that is actually core. And in terms of MVP, you start with process. So the discussion should be process first, because you have the business accelerators and so forth. You have a working system, and you can talk business process and see how things work. And of course, in the back of our mind, we keep unspoken, but always there, what the system can do and how it works and so forth. But very important is, we never say the system can't do it. Because in principle, the system can actually really do as much as it could do in the past. So it's not as limiting, it's just different. So we need to explain this MVP concept. Start small and lean. We basically build something that works and we evolve from there. Because adopting an ERP is like evolution. It's one step at a time. And this is basically where we believe and we see that many of the classic ERP consultants are a bit challenged, because they have an older way of thinking, the fit gap way of thinking, rather than a Fit2Standard and evolutive way of thinking. And because of this, they struggle a bit. So we really see the need for a new age ERP consultant, an ERP consultant who is proactive, who is very communicative, who can lead conversations, who is actually a bit of a combination between a management consultant with a very strong process focus, but then at least a management consultant in this case that delivers outcomes and not just PowerPoints. Yeah. And then a negotiator, so someone who can convince and drive and own a conversation lead it to an outcome without losing sight of the standards, the best practices, and so forth. So this is a very strong communicative aspect. And of course, in the background, there needs to be a very strong body of knowledge around ERP. So this new age ERP consultant is what is needed to implement these projects in a new way.
Yeah, and just to that point, Christoph, if you think of when you're on a project, who is your key audience? Your key audience isn't the IT team. It's the business users. It's the people that actually physically go and do a month end within finance, or they are a procurement lead, or they are a sales manager. They're the people you need to speak to. And if you start quoting them SAP transactions and codes and IMG nodes, they have no idea. You have to talk to them in a process way, and that's the whole difference that we've got. You don't want to have one person talking process and then you have to go and talk to somebody else who understands the back end and how to on what's available as standard as part of best practice. The new age consultant is really showing both.
Yeah, and building on that, what is interesting is, thanks to the introduction of AI, all these more technical aspects on how to configure system and so forth, it's gradually more disappearing to the background, because we can start using AI to do system configuration and so forth. So it becomes less critical that these people are still around, that more technical people. And we have these new age ERP consultant, or let's say the communicative people that lead a conversation.
Yep.
So in essence, these are a few key topics. I mean, we can talk about this for a very long time, but in essence, we do the same as in the past, but different. And it's always like this. We need much more communication, less tech. And of course, we need to understand ERP, and we need to understand business process, but communication is really key. And the idea that Fit2Standard is limiting because you fit to a standard, that idea is actually completely not correct.
Yep.
Fit2Standard is endless, and it has to be sold as such. And if we can convey this from the start of an engagement, and we can convey this to business users, they have a different mindset when they engage in discussions, and they will be more willing to step into that iterative process that a cloud ERP actually is. So this is basically the core of our presentation for today. We'll open the floor for comments, feedback, questions, or any type of discussion topic you may want to bring to the table.